But you're gonna be here. Is that computer? Which computer are you using?
The iPhone.
You're using the iPhone. Okay.
How come?
Trying to think if I could just use a laptop and share the screen and sit there during this.
Yeah, yeah. You can
Okay.
just grab that. You
Use
know.
this one. Oh,
And you can just share the screen.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
Hopefully.
Okay, let's see. How do I start? Where am I?
This isn't his email here.
What's it say?
It says Victor Wooten, but it says E.T. Normal.
Yeah, that's weird. What's up, everybody? Marcus Miller here, making sure that everything works here before we get started. Vic, are you around? Send me a request so I can join you in, Mr. Victor Wooten. Man, we got some cool people signing in from all over the world. Wow. Awesome. Carlos from Brazil, what's up, man? The UK, Brazil, man, Africa, wow. What's up, guys? Hey, Vic, are you around? Send me a request to join. Okay, while we're waiting for Vic, I should play. Found the bass. Somebody write to make sure, tell me that you guys can hear me, okay? Can you hear that? Can you guys hear that? There he is. What's up, Mr. Wooten?
Yo, yo, yo.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm
Hey,
doing
man.
very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for doing this, man.
Man, thanks for having me here. Yeah,
Hey, did
you're
you
my
just finish?
hero, man.
You just finished your class?
Yeah, I did. Just at 4 o'clock, man. I bolted out just right at 4, and I've got some other guys closing the Zoom window for me. But yeah.
So what kind of stuff are you teaching?
Oh man, this camp. This is the crazy one.
Oh, so you're
We
doing
got
a camp. You're doing an online camp. Victor Wooten
absolutely.
camp.
Yeah, we can't do our camps at Wooten Woods, so we're doing them online. And we started as a test one. We invited some people for free to come in and let us try this stuff out. Just some of our past students,
Yeah.
So we're in there just testing it out. And then we got 3 real camps coming up: music theory, bass camp, We got another one called 2020 Vision for the Future. That's
Wow.
just like how, you know, how do we exist during this time? How can we make our future, you know, better so that we come back better than normal, you know?
Hey, let me tell everybody, Vic, when was this? Was this last summer?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
uh, I'm on the board of ASCAP, and once a year, ASCAP, the board meets in Nashville, right? So I fly into Nashville airport for the meeting, and I run into this bass player in the airport. He says, "Are you here for Victor's camp?" I go, "What Victor's camp?" Because you would call me, Vic, to do a camp, but it was earlier in the year, and we couldn't get the schedules to
Right.
work. I didn't know you did multiple camps, right? So
Right.
I said, "Victor's doing a camp?" He says, "Yeah." So after my meetings, I called Vic's wife, Holly, and said, "Look, I'm around." And she says, "Well, we're surprising Vic." She says, "I can never surprise him. He's very difficult to surprise. So we're going to use this opportunity." So she came and picked me up from Nashville. What is the drive, like 45 minutes from
Yeah.
Nashville?
Yeah. From the airport, about an hour. Yeah.
About an hour. Yeah. So she picked me up and brought me out, man. And she said, "You just wait in this room." They put me in a room. And apparently Vic was having concerts. They have at Victor's camp, which is a beautiful piece of land out in about an hour outside of Nashville. But they have a concert hall, and some guys were giving a concert. And Holly had told them, "Look, in the middle of your concert, you're gonna just pause, and we're gonna surprise them." So I waited in the room, and when I got my cue, I came on stage and started playing. And Vic is kind of like overseeing everything because it's his camp, so he's watching the concert, but he's also kind of dealing with the campers and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, I started playing, and Vic goes, he looks up, he goes, and they caught the picture. Like, you literally have never seen somebody's jaw drop. But we have a picture with Vic's jaw dropped, and if we can find it, I'm gonna
Oh
post it
man.
if you
Oh
don't mind.
gosh.
That's okay with you.
Oh, it was unbelievable. I'm still in shock.
It's very cool, man. And that was the first time. Well, had I been to the camp before? It was the first time I was at Wooten Woods,
Yeah,
and
you went into our old location.
yeah, and it was really cool, man. All these people who were just so, I mean, you create such a really beautiful atmosphere for, musicians, for aspiring musicians. Just make them feel comfortable, impart some knowledge. You know what I mean? So it's really, really impressive, man. And of course, you're gonna figure out a way to do it. Even in this crazy time that
Yeah.
we're. Are you practicing yourself? What are you doing?
You
Do you get
know,
time to practice?
I've you know, I've been trying, and this is gonna probably surprise people, but I've been trying to play as little as possible, Marcus. Mainly, I mean, you know, you probably know, but your kids are probably older. I still got two of my kids living at home,
Yeah.
and I've been away their whole lives,
Mm,
literally. I have
mm,
I had not been home a whole month of their lives,
mm, mm.
literally. And my oldest is 22, living in New York,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so it has turned into a busy time while I'm home.
Yeah.
But I've really been trying to give them as much of my time as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But the
Mm-hmm.
other thing too, Marcus, you know, I talked to you about this crazy hand condition called dystonia.
Yeah.
I've really been taking the time to work slowly and mentally on to reconditioning my hands. And so the practice I've been doing has been like literally in slow motion and
Mm,
a lot of mental, so I can retrain my brains to stop messing my hands up.
mm,
And I'm
mm.
happy to talk about it, but it's a weird thing. So I haven't been doing much of the normal playing unless I have to,
Mm-hmm.
but a
Mm-hmm.
lot of crazy slow motion stuff, you know.
When did you first start noticing that issue?
It probably 15 to 20 years ago.
Oh, really?
Even though, yeah, I didn't know what it was. I just knew my hands were starting to feel sluggish. These and these were stopped. They were slowly not lining up. And the fluidity, I will call it, of my fingers, they just felt sluggish.
Mm-hmm.
And so Bela Flack, or my friend Steve Bailey, and other close friends, they all remember me 15 to 20 years ago talking about it although I didn't know what it was.
Right.
So it's
Wow.
been about 2 years now that I was able to put a name to it and to realize that I wasn't alone.
Right. So this is not just you. There are plenty of people who are experiencing the same thing, huh?
Absolutely. It's called focal dystonia, dystonia.
Right. Right.
And I was told that 1 in 200 musicians get it.
Wow.
And so that's a lot.
So wait a minute, Vic. When we went on tour with SMV, that was 2008, 2009. Okay, so that's 11 years ago. So you were actually experiencing some of that. I don't even want to know what you would have been playing if you didn't have that going on. Wow.
That's
really?
Very kind of you. Yeah, but you know, the thing is, at that time I didn't have a name for it.
Right.
I just knew there were some things, like there's this one line Stanley and I gave all 3 of us to play, and I could never play it. I never talked about it.
Really?
But I got good at faking things.
Right. Right.
And the last thing to go was this. See, I thought this was the problem in the beginning. I thought, man, I've been working on the thumb so much, I need to start working on my fingers more. And the more I worked on the fingers, the worse they got. So over the later years, at least live, I shy away from this because this is slowly not working, and I go back to this, you know? So that's why I even did a lot of that during SMV, because that was still comfortable for me.
Right, right.
But, I still remember this line Stanley gave us to play. We played it in unison. And I couldn't play.
Oh, man, that thing was crazy. It was in School Days?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's the one. That's the one.
I felt like when he gave us that line, I felt like I was back in my bedroom as a teenager learning Stanley Clarke from the LP, you know?
Exactly,
wow,
man. Yeah.
But
Mark, let me add this though. Let me add one thing. I still love playing.
Yeah,
I still enjoy it, and I don't let it stop me. Right? It's not as easy, but still, you know, it's like getting older, Michael Jordan or whoever on the basketball court. You still can have some fun, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm still in that enjoyment place. And
Beautiful.
I know it will come back.
Yeah, I mean, I know for you, it's absolutely gonna. Hey, what's your? Oh, you know what? I want to send you a track. Can I send it to you?
I text you. Yeah.
Okay. So
I sent you a text. I think I did.
Okay, you sent me a text. Okay, hold on.
I hope I did.
I'm sure you did. Hold on one second. Oops. 1 second.
Yeah. I'm on my phone. Can you do Instagram not on your phone? I'm always on my phone on Instagram.
You got to download software to do it. So I'm on my phone.
On your computer?
On my you got to download software onto your laptop or your computer. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm scared to go offline because I might lose you. But I want to send you this thing, but I don't know your email. So
can you play? You can do a Vic VIC.
Okay.
At VictorWooten.com.
Can you, Jules? Did you hear that?
You know what? Play me the track. I can loop something like it.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not a track. It's just a bass.
Oh, okay.
Right. I'm just gonna go like this. See, the problem is, everybody, that we can't play together because of the lag on Instagram. If we try to play together, you're gonna be like, man, those guys, their rhythm is not as good as I thought. So yeah. So VIC at
VictorWooten.com.
Okay. All right. Sending it to you. Okay.
And there's
In the
over
meantime,
1,000 people in here. I'm gonna be getting over 1,000 emails now.
Exactly. Sorry about that. That's why I wasn't gonna ask, but you offered it. Okay. Okay. Hey, I want to tell everybody how I heard Victor Wooten, how I heard of Victor Wooten. I play a Fender all my life, but I also, particularly when I play fretless bass, for a long time I played a Federa bass, and still do from time to time. Anyway, I had sent my bass to Federa to have something done to it in Brooklyn, New York, and they did the work on it, and then they sent it back, right? So I open up the bass, and in the bass, I find this CD, right?
Cassette.
Okay. Oh, excuse me. Let's get it right. In
Yeah,
my bass case, I found a cassette,
that's
right?
right.
And it says, "Hey, man, I happened to be at Federa when your bass came through, and I want to. My name is Victor Wooten, and this is my first album, and I'd like for you, if you have a minute, to give it a listen." And Vic, we used to get cassettes like all the time. You know what I mean? From every aspiring musician, and so
Yeah.
it took maybe about a week. I'm in the car and I put it in, and I'm listening. I'm going, wait, let me pull this car over for a second. Turn the engine off. Make sure I'm hearing what I think I'm hearing. And I called you, man. I said, man, this is fantastic, man. Wow. And it's your fault now, Vic, that I feel obligated to listen to every piece of music that people say.
Uh-huh.
And it drives me nuts because I'm like, you never know when there's going to be another Victor Wooten,
Yeah.
sitting in there. There hasn't been, by the way.
Well, I got lucky though, Marcus. I just happened to be at Fodera and they were shipping your bass out that day.
It's
And
amazing.
yeah, I got lucky there. So I can see a difference. You get your bass and there's a cassette tape in it, right? But I'm
Now,
telling you, Marcus, my heart still feels so warm. The fact that you literally called me.
oh, yeah.
And I'm cleaning house now, right? We all at home cleaning house because we have time. I'm
Yeah.
gonna find that tape. That was when we had to put them little tiny cassette tapes in the message machine. I still have your message somewhere.
Really?
I'm gonna
Really?
find it, send it to you. Yeah.
Well, it's funny, man, because we did SMV, and for those of you who might not know, it was Vic, Stanley Clark, and myself. We had there had been a, a celebration of Stanley Clark given by Bass Magazine, Bass Player Magazine, excuse me, and Vic and I were asked to be the presenters of a Lifetime Achievement Award to Stanley Clark. And it was in New York City, so we came in. Vic and I gave our little speeches, and then we decided to all play together. And we had such a great time, and it felt so natural. And bass players playing together, two bass players playing together doesn't always work. Three bass players playing together, lots of times, it's kind of a mess. But this was not a mess at all. We all fell into like the right roles, to make the music work. And I realized I wasn't playing with two other bass players. I was playing with two other musicians.
Wow.
And that's a big difference,
Wow.
musicians who listen and can really adapt. Anyway, we decided after that to do a tour. And so everything about SMV, Vic, was like symmetrical, right?
Yes,
Like
absolutely.
if we stood in size order, it was the same. If we stood in age order, it was the same. Alphabetical order was the same. You know what I
Yep.
mean? It always
Yep.
like, and people assumed, well, Stanley, of course, he made his mark in the 70s, right? And I made my mark in the 80s, and then you in the 90s. So a lot of people thought that, it was Stanley, and then I was affected by Stanley, and then you were affected by me. But the thing that people don't realize is you started playing the bass at what, 5 years old?
A little bit actually before, because of my brothers.
Right.
Yeah.
So we actually started playing bass, even though I'm older than you. We actually started playing bass at the exact same time.
Wow.
And so rather than it being Stanley influencing Marcus, influencing Victor, it was you and me hanging out with the guy who had influenced us both. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's true.
So it was a really beautiful thing. Consequently, on the tour bus, we gave Stanley the big bunk. You know what I mean?
Well, he is like 8 feet tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever you need, man. So what was the I got two questions for you.
Yeah, man.
One is a general question, which is in terms of you decide at some point in your life, you want to be a musician. What was the thing that surprised you the most? What was the thing that you didn't consider when you decided to become a professional musician? Anything that surprised you?
Well, yeah, always. Life is full of surprises. The first thing is this: I'm the youngest of 5 boys.
Mm-hmm.
So before I was born, my brothers already knew that this whatever his name's gonna be, he's playing bass.
Mm. Because they need a
So
bass player.
that was it. Yep, Reggie was already playing guitar, Roy drums, Rudy sax, Joseph keys. They needed a bass player.
Right.
So that literally became me. And I was lucky enough to be born into it, you know?
Yeah.
And I was out literally playing gigs before I started kindergarten. It's just, you know, when I was 5, I think Reggie said I turned 6 during a tour where we were opening for Curtis Mayfield. Let me see. How can I switch this camera around? Let's see. Oh yeah, look at this. So I just happen to have one poster left. Curtis Mayfield at Mr. D's club.
At Mr. D's.
Mr. D's, and they spelled our name wrong.
The Wooten brothers.
Right?
Wow, man.
There's no date on this. This was in Sacramento, California.
Yeah.
There's no date on this, but it had to be 69 maybe or 70.
Right.
I mean,
69
you know, 1969 or 1970. And there's some more. Let's see. Over here, when I turned 8, now we had moved from California. We had moved from California to Virginia now.
Yeah.
And when I was 7, and so now we're playing throughout North Carolina, and this was at Shaw's Outer Limits Club.
Wow.
And
8-year-old Victor Wooten, the bass ace.
Yeah. My brother Reggie would always, you know, tell me what to do.
Yeah.
He would always, you know, he would set me up to be a star. Man, if you do this, you know.
Right.
And I can remember being a young kid listening to my brothers and finding out on stage, wow, if I do this, the audience will like do that, you know?
Right.
And that was where I really got the understanding of performance, of delivery.
Right.
You know, playing was one part of it, but delivering and performing and was another thing. And I was lucky enough to get to really learn about that young. But I learned music so young that I never thought I was going to be a musician growing up.
Right.
You know, back in I don't know how it was for you, but back in the, you know, early 70s, us boys, where I was going to school in Sacramento, we thought we were going to be policemen, firemen, normal stuff. Music wasn't like a real option for me at that young age. At least I didn't know about it. And sports wasn't really the same for me, but I thought I was going to be a normal kid, but I was playing gigs every weekend. Now, when my 3 older brothers went to college, and after a couple of years, with our parents' blessing, they dropped out. So I'm 8 years old, 8 years younger than Reggie. So whenever he was in the second year of college, however old he is, maybe 18, 19, I'm 8 years younger. That's when I found out, what? I don't even have to go to college. All I got to do is keep playing music? Really? That's it? That was a huge surprise to me. And there were blessings and curses that came with that, because academically, I kind of didn't try hard. Meaning I didn't push myself. Our parents wouldn't let us get bad grades. Right. You know, I graduated with honors and all that, but I didn't really push myself and
But you didn't reach your full potential. Right.
Yeah, I didn't. Not academically. I didn't reach my full potential. And I look back on that now, and I wish I had. Music was easy, Marcus. I mean, I grew. It's like learning to speak English. Right. You just do it. You know, I learned music that way, but I have learned to push myself in music in a way I didn't do academically. Well,
you know, the blessing also is that although you may not have pushed yourself academically, knowing what you're going to do when you're in high school, already knowing what you're going to do, answers a lot of questions that a lot of kids don't have answers to, you know? Meaning, I mean, it wasn't as early for me, but by the time I was a junior in high school, I knew I was going to be a musician. So the SATs, I wasn't stressed. You know what I mean? I was like, you know, I'll do my best. Like you, I did well. Yeah. But it wasn't like I was worried about getting accepted to a Ivy League school. I was already accepted to the conservatory in New York on clarinet. You know what I mean? So I was like, It took a lot of stress off, and it also gave you a direction. You know what I mean? Also gave, I heard stories about all the musicians' mistakes that they made, and I said, you know what? Even though I'm in high school, I'm going to veer away from the drugs and the alcohol, because they were a horror story back then. By the way, for everybody who's tuning in, this is the M30 Live series, and I got Mr. Victor Wooten. Very honored to have him. We do this thing once a week. I talk to people who I consider very cool, the best at what they do, and I absolutely have done it this week, Mr. Victor Wooten. Thank you for doing it, man. He's in the middle of doing virtual Victor Wooten base camps, right? Not letting this stop him at all, and that's very cool.
That's right.
So for me, the things that I didn't anticipate when I decided, I'm going to be a musician, I never thought about travel, right? Like, never occurred to me that was going to be a huge thing. Never occurred to me that in 2020, I'd be, wow, this is the longest I've gone without being on a plane in like 30 years.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so I didn't know about the travel. And it's the same for athletes, guys, kids dream about being ball players or whatever, but they don't know, can you play with jet lag? You know what I mean? Can you play with your ears? Can you play the music with your ears stopped up from having just got off a plane? There's a whole lot of practical things you got to deal with.
Headache.
Oh boy, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was management, like business. You know what I mean? And I encourage every musician. Kids are doing it more now than they were when we were coming up. When we were coming up, it was just everything else will take care of itself. But that's very important. You really have to be cognizant of that. Hey, Vic, Julian, did you send it?
Yo.
Okay, check your email.
I got it, man. I got it.
You got it? Put it up, man.
You ready?
Put it up. Huh? See, we can play together. So I just sent you a bass line, and I just need you to pick up a bass. Turn it up. There you go.
Can you hear that?
I hear it loud and clear. Sounds like somebody I recognize.
So I gotta say this. My ears say the bottom is covered.
Right.
So you know what I mean? I'm not going down there.
Right. Okay.
This is the reason that it worked with Stanley and you and me is my ear tells me, I'm not going down here, right?
Right.
Let me see. Oh, wait, man. Wait. Oh, it just dawned on me. Hold on a second. The way I have this set up, I got to plug in somewhere else. Hold on.
Okay, no problem.
I got it set up for Zoom, right?
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay.
So I gotta go over here for a second. Let me see.
I'm gonna play while you do that.
Yeah, please.
I'm getting requests for like bass lines. We're gonna talk about bass lines.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm getting there. Hold on. I got to plug my phone in. It's about to run out of battery.
Plug it in.
out how to get this thing to stand up. Hold on, I'm coming. I got to figure out how to make this thing stand up while it's plugged in.
Ah. Ah. This is hard, man.
I bet my rhythm sounds so bad, right?
Hey, man. And then I'm going with you, and then you're going with me, and it's a mess. That's why I sent that bass line. Okay? Hey, everybody, hey, we know how to play in sync, everybody, but technology is not quite there yet for us to do it over
right, man.
But that's all right, man. Hey, Vic, how long have you been playing that bass?
Oh, this particular one,
how many of those do you
have? I have 2 fretted like this.
Right.
But then I've got the real the first yin yang bass ever made was fretless.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the first one.
Wow. Wow.
And then I have another one that's made out of the same ebony and holly.
Yeah.
And that was my second one. And then I kind of got crazy. I put a tremolo bar on it. And then I got tired of the tremolo bar. So I had to make me another one without the tremolo bar on it.
Does the tremolo bar get in your way?
It's not so much that, well, yeah. It does get in the way. But that wasn't the real issue. It just kind of goes out of tune. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Once you start using it, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm looking at my phone. It's like I'm in the bat cave. Remember them criminals in the bat cave that used to always be cricket?
You know what?
Phone. Yeah.
You know, there's that was a revolutionary idea that whenever the 60s Batman show showed the criminals, they skewed the camera.
Exactly.
And whoever that guy, the cameraman, who got that idea, that's the name of that technique now. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah, wow. Because it was so cool. You know what I mean? Whenever they saw the Riddler or the Joker,
yeah,
they did that. You know?
That was a genius idea.
All right, so play that bass line, man.
Okay. All right, let's see what we got.
There we go.
You hear that?
I hear it, yeah. Go on, get in the way. Man, you jump in, but I'll mess with you. Ouch.
Woo, that's fun, man.
Okay, my turn.
That's fun.
Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
How do you get a high A? You got a high A on that?
Well, I got a G. I got a high G, so I bent it up. Yeah. Marcus, let us see your hands a little bit.
Hey man,
Wow, Marcus.
that I noticed
What's that?
is that what would you consider your music? Somebody you're getting a taxi cab in New York City with your bass, and the taxi cab driver says, "Oh, what kind of music do you play?" What do you say?
Well, I kind of formulated a question, answer, because I get it so much. I usually say it's either a funky version of jazz or a jazzy version of funk.
That's so crazy, because that's my exact same answer. Depending on the day,
Yeah,
jazzy funk or funky jazz. But a lot of people will argue, is it jazz or not? But the thing that I think jazz helps us with is being able to be flexible and
absolutely.
being able to react. Because that's the problem I find with a lot of bass players when they play, and somebody does something and you have to respond. You can't always respond with something that you practiced, in your bedroom,
Yep.
so you have to have a really wide toolkit, you know what I mean? So that
Yeah.
when Victor Wooten plays something at you, you say, okay, I want to play something that makes sense, that completes his thought, or whatever it is. Stanley, of course, you know what I mean? And I think that's the difference. Bass players who play together, you have to practice being able to think fast. You know what I mean? And you got
Definitely.
to be able to almost like think a couple of bars ahead of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
or at least be able to practice so much that you can play what you hear like pretty quickly. Like
Yeah.
George Benson when he's singing and playing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Right? You got to have that ability if you're going to play with other people, man, because it's not always going to be what you think. Now, if you're playing a pop band or a band where you guys know exactly what you're going to do, you're
Sure.
cool. Just learn your part, learn how to execute it well. But if you're going to be jamming and playing with other people, and the other thing is to listen.
Gotta
Listen to what
listen.
the other guy's doing. Like Victor, you heard Victor say it, right? He said, man, you got the bass covered. And that's what happened when we did SMV. Stanley started playing. We said, well, the top end is covered, right? Because he was doing that,
Yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
playing that. So, okay, we're not going to do that,
Right.
And you found something, and I went low, you know what I mean? And it was so
Yep.
natural. And if anybody switch roles, we automatically switch roles too. You know what I mean?
Right. That
And I
was
think there's
beautiful. Yeah.
a lot of bass bands, because I've heard other bass conglomerations, and I don't hear that sometimes. It's like, dude, listen, listen.
Yeah. That's the number one thing that made it work is that everybody approached it. The instrument was the bass, but we were playing music. And it was
Yes.
musicians playing music with the bass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how many people came up to you after said, you know what, I got dragged down here by my bass player husband or my bass player friend,
Right.
and I really wasn't expecting to have a great time, and I was very surprised because I had a wonderful time. Right? We got that a lot, right?
Yeah, a lot, because people weren't really expecting to hear music.
Right.
They were expecting to hear a lot of bass.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
a lot of us battling each other or whatever. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and that record, the shows were so musical, man, so musical.
Oh yeah, yeah. And we're gonna do another one. It's just that man, everybody's careers are so thick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And getting everybody together. You know, and SMV surprised all of us because I think we did. Did we do almost 2 years of touring on that?
We did, yeah, yeah. I mean, we were surprised that it happened, and it took a
Yeah,
long time because
yeah.
everybody's busy, you know.
Right, right, right.
But we're happy that we made it happen.
You and I, like I was mentioning before, we were really happy to be on the same stage with Stanley because he was a mentor, inspiration to both of us. And it was really interesting to be on stage with him and see like how he operates and how he gets to what he gets to, you know. And I'll never forget, we're playing in the middle of the show, and I'm a big stage left. I'm in the middle, and Stanley's on the right. And Victor had kind of wandered over there, and he comes back to me. He says, "Go stand in front of Stanley's amp." I said, "What? Go stand in front of Stanley's amp now." I said, "Okay." So I wandered over there, and as I got close, my shirt started going like this because we didn't know how loud he plays, right?
Ooh, yes.
I mean, no joke, man.
No joke.
But I figured it out. You know, Stanley made his mark in the 70s, and he made a huge mark. He was playing with Chick Corea and Return to Forever, one of the biggest fusion bands of all time. And they were playing arenas. They were playing in sports arenas.
Right.
And the sound systems at that time, they really couldn't produce the bass the way Stanley Cochran wanted the bass to be reproduced. You know, nowadays you got those big speakers on either side of the stage, and they can make bass better than your amp sometimes.
Right. A lot of people playing nowadays without an amp.
Exactly. Don't even use amps. But back then, Stanley's like, if I want people to hear what I'm doing, I'm gonna have to carry it. I'm gonna have to make it happen from my amp behind me. So that's his like orientation, man. And he's killing it, man. And he'll hit that note. He'll go like, and he'll just go.
And he just let that long arm hang down there. Like, yeah, I know I'm bad. I'm Stanley Clark. Look what I just did. You know? Yeah.
Man, hey, you know what? You know, you came to prominence after your brothers with Bella Fleck, right?
Yeah.
And the Flecktones. And it's crazy, man, because Ray Chu, who's a really successful music arranger and music director here in LA. He and I went to high school together, and we were talking about the people who went to our high school. The high school is called Music and Art in New York City. It's called LaGuardia School now. When we went, there were two campuses. One was downtown that was performing arts, dancers and musicians, the one that was in that movie Fame. Right. And then there was one uptown with musicians and artists. And we went to that one. And Ray Chu said to me, "You don't remember Bella Fleck?" I said, "Man, no, man. I've been trying to remember him in high school." He said, "You don't remember the three like hippie kind of people in the middle of the playground, just playing like sitting down on the floor and just playing music? The one guy playing the banjo." I go, "That was him." Yeah, man, that was Bella Fleck.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
man.
he told me he went to that school with you guys.
And you know, he was you know, in New York City, the people that school was a magnet school, meaning you had to audition to get in, and people from all the boroughs in New York, Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, Staten Island, they all came to Manhattan every day to attend that school. And the borough kids, we call them the borough kids, even though Manhattan is a borough also. You know, Manhattan's Manhattan. So when you talk about the borough kids, you talk about the kids from Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx, Staten Island. The borough kids, we weren't as advanced as the kids who lived in Manhattan. And Bella Fleck lived in Manhattan, you know, so they were already adults, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I very much remember him now, man. And
What
was it like? How did you guys hook up?
Wow, exactly. So you were asking me about surprises in my career.
Mm-hmm.
That was a surprise.
Okay,
I
yeah.
mean, that was not in my cards. You know, people are gonna know you because you play with a banjo player, right? No, man. My whole life, I thought it was gonna be the brothers.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, that was it, no
Yeah.
question, right? But
Yeah.
through a bad record deal in the early '80s,
Uh-huh.
it caused us brothers to not be playing together for the first time in our lives.
Wow.
So that wasn't the best time of my life, but it turned into some good things. Bela Fleck being one of them. My wife being another. Is I ended up taking a job playing bluegrass fiddle at an amusement park called Busch Gardens in Williamsburg, Virginia. And a side story to that is I had never played fiddle in my life, but all I knew was bass or music. And, this job opened up. It was either, go to, there was no Walmart. I think it was Kmart at the time. Go to Kmart and help unload refrigerators from trucks, or learn to play
Wow.
the fiddle in 2 weeks.
Really?
I said, I'm going to learn the fiddle. Yeah. I mean, I had an audition in a couple of weeks. So bluegrass fiddle, exactly. So I just researched the top fiddle tunes and learned enough to win the audition. And so and you can find
You didn't have dreadlocks at the time, did you?
Hey man, this was Jerry Curl days. Yeah.
So you were a Jerry Curl fiddle player.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. But to cut that story shorter, it was in this bluegrass country show at Busch Gardens that I learned about Bela Fleck.
Yeah.
I would play my friend's banjo, the banjo player in our show. I would mess around on his banjo during the breaks.
Right.
And banjos are tuned really weird. Like our strings are tuned in fourths. A banjo tuning, every string is a different interval.
Oh, wow.
So I was playing all this crazy stuff, all this stuff that's on a show of hands, but I would do it on a banjo.
Yeah.
And it just sounded weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my friend, my country friend, John Swaim is his name. He'd say, man, you sound like Bela Fleck. You sound like Bela Fleck, man. And I'm like, who? I thought his name was Baylor.
Baylor, right?
And I'm like, who is that? Man, he brought in a cassette of a band called Newgrass Revival.
Okay.
And Bela was playing banjo in that band, and it just floored me. So I ended up in 1987. I went to visit a guy named Kurt Story, who still lives in Nashville. I went to visit him for 4 days. Kurt was born and raised in Nashville, so he knew everybody, and he introduced me to Bela. And over 30 years later, we're still playing together.
Wow, man, that banjo thing, man. Because Vic.
Absolutely.
That's
it's
banjo.
The same thing, Marcus. It's the same thing. So Bela, if you use what they call in bluegrass the Scruggs technique, made off after Earl Scruggs, they use these 3 fingers, right? So it's thumb and these 3 fingers. They can use them in different ways. So when I first played with and for Bela, he said this is like a bass banjo. Right? That's what he said. He said this is like a bass banjo. And so we literally traded instruments.
Really? Yeah,
we traded instruments and started playing playing our own stuff on each other's instruments. And we were instant friends.
Right?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, they ain't nothing but some hillbilly stuff, ain't it?
Isn't it? It is. Yeah. Just it's hillbilly stuff with a little bit of a different groove on it.
And they put some other stuff on it. Yeah, but the technique.
That's it.
The technique.
And Bela loved it.
I know he must have, because you guys, man. Yeah. Hey, how's that? How's that go?
That one?
Yeah. Again, I would join in, but I'm just gonna mess you up. Keep playing it. Keep playing. How off am I?
Man, you sound good, man. Bread dough.
That's it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then how's the bridge go?
Right.
What's the bass?
It goes up to C. Right.
Got it.
So, right. Back to E. C major to E. E minor. Then C, D, E.
Got it. So.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. That's it. Then back to yeah. Yeah.
I love that, man. That was one of the first things I heard from you, man. Hey, man, we're getting ready to run. We're getting ready to run out of time, man. We got probably about 5 minutes.
All right.
I want to just thank everybody, man, for tuning into M30 Live. Victor Wooten, incredible special guest. Thank you so much, man. And thank you for your spirit, man. You know, hey, tell me last 5 years when you went off on somebody.
Went off on somebody?
You're such a nice guy. I can't imagine you going off on somebody. Come on, tell me that you went off on somebody once.
You know,
just went straight to Virginia on them.
It's, you know, that's really rare. And I can't even remember the last time. Most of the time it doesn't have to get there.
Right.
You know,
I'm just joking. I know that's not your thing, man. But
I got Danette for that. I got my manager Danette to take
there
care
you
of
go.
that.
I got people to go walk for me.
Exactly. We can still appear the nice guy, right?
Exactly.
But if we have to.
Oh, don't get it twisted now.
Right.
Where they say don't let the smooth taste fool you.
That's
you know.
Right.
All right, man. Thank you again, man. Love you, man.
Love you, Marcus. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for having me on.
Okay. Hey guys,
right.
hey, listen, Miller Time is starting on Sirius XM. If you have Sirius XM, it's starting in about 5 minutes.
That's where we're gonna be in 5 minutes. That's where we're gonna be.
And it's very cool. So if you get a minute, everybody check out Miller Time. All right. Love everybody. See you guys soon.
Thank you, Marcus.
All right. Thank you, man.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everybody.